Hello children, coming to the second lesson of the history, new kings and kingdoms. First of all, I would like to explain you the emergence of new kingdoms and new dynasties is the first topic. Emergence of new dynasties. This is first topic, emergence of new dynasties. So I would like to explain you emergence of new dynasties with introduction of meaning of dynasty. So what is meant by dynasty? Succession of the people belong to the same family playing a very important or prominent role to carry on the ruling family to family. So it is nothing but called dynasty. What are the different dynasties are existed in the medieval period clearly given to you in this pic. So in this subcontinent, the number of dynasties established in the medieval period between 7th century to 12th century in the north part of our India, Gurjara, Pratiharas, Chahmanas, Chandelas, Palas, like different dynasties established. And in the southern part of our India also, Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas, Rashtrakutas and Kalingas, the other different dynasties were also established their kingdoms. So in this way, when we are coming to the different dynasties, by 7th century, there were number of chieftains and landlords existed in the kingdom. Generally, these chieftains and landlords were pronounced or announced or acknowledged by the kings as Samantas. Samantas or subordinates. Okay, subordinates are the Samantas or the people who always expected to give gifts to the people, to the kings, and generally they used to stay or they are to be present in the court of the king, and in same way sometimes whenever the king wanted to invade on other kings or other kingdoms, these Samantas and called subordinates used to give their military support. Okay, so always the kings pronounced them or acknowledged them as Samantas. As the Samantas gained power and wealth, they acknowledged themselves as Mahasamantas and Mahamandaleshwaras, which means they are the great lords of that particular regions. So when the time permits, when these Samantas gain power and wealth, they themselves announced as they are the rulers of that particular region by overthrow these lords. What are the examples of these situations? Here, Rashtrakutas dynasty. This dynasty, one dynasty belonged to the Rashtrakutas, is very best example of this particular concept. Here, actually, they are the Samantas of Chalukyas of Karnataka. They are the Chalukyas of Karnataka. In the medieval period, in the 7th period, Karnataka was ruled by Chalukyas. So for the Chalukyas, these Rashtrakutas, in the initial time, they were the subordinates. But at the time of Dantidurga, this Rashtrakuta dynasty, these Rashtrakutas who are the Samantas of Chalukyas of Karnataka established their own kingdom, okay, in Karnataka, because Dantidurga, as he gained power and wealth, he announced that he is the king of the Karnataka. Okay, so he actually in the medieval period, the kingdoms were ruled by Kshatriyas clan, but Dantidurga is not belong to Kshatriyas. So he performed one ritual called Hiranyagarbha. What is the ritual called? Hiranyagarbha. what is meant by this Hiranyagarbha? Golden womb. As Dantidurga performed this ritual called Hiranyagarbha, he was termed as Kshatriyas. So then onwards, he started ruling the kingdom of Karnataka with the dynasty name. What is the name of this dynasty? Rashtrakutas. So, Rashtrakutas dynasty was established by Dantidurga in mid 8th century. In the middle of 8th century, this dynasty was established by Dantidurga. In the same way, number of enterprising families, they gave up their traditional professions and they had turned towards the ruling of the kingdom because they had used many more military skills to carve out the kingdoms. So in the same way, what are the other examplers? Who are the other examplers once we see? Kadamba Mayura Sharman and here Gurjara Pratihara Harishchandra. These two also actually initially they were belonged to Brahman clan. But they gave up their traditional profession and they had turned towards the rulers. He had established, Kadamba Mayur Sharman had established his kingdom in Karnataka, and in the same way Gurjara Pratihara Harishchandra also had established his kingdom in Rajasthan. In this way, number of dynasties have been established in the Indian subcontinent. Like that, you can see many more in between 7th century to 12th century, number of dynasties established in Indian subcontinent. Children, the next concept is administration in the kingdom. How was this administration was conducted by the king in the kingdom? Generally in the medieval period, the kings were pronounced, they were praised by very high sound titles. What are the very high sound titles? You might have already known by seeing these old pictures. In the Maharajadiraja, Tribhuvana Chakravarti, like Mahamartandeya, like number of titles were used to praise the king when he is arraigned to the court. So in Tribhuvana Chakravarti, he is equal to the god, that is, he is the king for the 3 worlds. So in this way, the king was praised in the medieval period. And in the same way, this king was also used to share his power with here Samantas and with the associations of peasants, traders and Brahmanas. Okay, as he shared his power with the Samantas and associations of peasants, Brahmanas and even traders, it has become compulsory for all the traders and here artisans and cattle keepers and even for the peasants also to submit a part of their production. Whatever they produce, part of that production should be submitted in the form of the rent. It was claimed as the rent by the king. So, as the traders also used to give some amount in the form of revenue. So, the revenue was also collected from the traders and part of their production from the peasants and artisans and some here cattle keepers also, because the land which was used by all these people was belonged to king. So, it was compulsory to submit part of their production to the king in the form of rent. So, after that, in what way this rent was used by the king? For the construction of temples, for establishment of fort, and even to invade on other kings for the warfare, he also used this amount. So, when he was invading on the other kingdoms, because to assert, to plunder the wealth of the other kingdoms, they always used to target the temples of other kingdoms. So whenever they acquire the wealth, that can be used to lay down the roads and trade routes also, and for all other establishments he can use. So in this way, there was an contract, there was an understanding, coexistence and mutual understanding by the people and by the king. So the king, whatever the land is used by the people is belong to the king. So the king used to collect some production, either in the form of production or in the form of money. He used to collect from the peasants, traders and business people, and even from the cattle keepers and from artisans and from samantas even he collected. So that collected amount he used to establish for port and or for the temples. Maximum the temples were constructed in the medieval period, and to invade on other kingdoms. So by invading on other kingdoms, it can be easy for them to plunder the wealth of the other kingdoms, and that can be used for the construction of roads and trade routes and extending the power of their kingdom and extending their wealth of the kingdom. So in this way the king had used, and the king's administration was existed in the medieval period. See children, precious things. What are precious things? These are praising records of the kings. Here these precious things may be true or may not true. Literally may not true. These precious things tell us or explain us how the kings wanted to depict themselves as they are the great valiants and here very victorious warriors. In what way they have to be praised. That was given an exhibit through these precious things. Generally these precious things were composed by Brahmanas. Brahmanas occasionally they used to do help, or occasionally they used to help to the king in the administration in the medieval period. So these Brahmanas, for writing these precious things on kings, kings oftenly rewarded Brahmanas by granting lands. So what were given in return to write the precious things by the kings? Granting lands. So these granting lands also, here not only the common lands which are very filled with a number of granaries and rivers, lakes and very beautiful orchards and number of cropping agricultural fields, like very valuable lands, based on the type of precious thing they had written, how the king was impressed towards this writer. Based on that, these granting of the lands were taken place. Granting of the lands also, here they were these recording of this granting of the land was also taken on a copper plate. So these copper plates were these records, these are the copper plates. Whoever has to receive this granting of the land, this copper plates like inscription way, they given to the receiver, okay, receiver of the land. So in this way, precious things played a very important role in the medieval period. So one example also is given, the achievements of Nagabhatta. In what way the Nagabhatta has taken his achievements, one precious thing was written or given here. You have to go through this. And another important the thing is, one person in the medieval period, Kalhana. Kalhana is a composer of Rajatarangini. What about this Rajatarangini? This Kalhana has composed this Rajatarangini Prashasti to explain us about the rulers who had ruled over Kashmir. So the beauty of the Kashmir and about the rulers of Kashmir, this was written by Kalhana. It was composed by Kalhana. And Kalhana, not like other leaders, he was critical of the rulers and their policies even. But he had taken many more sources to write his writing, to write his Prashasti. So what are that? For example, inscriptions, so many inscriptions he studied, documents he had taken, and eyewitness accounts he had taken, and earlier histories also he verified. So based on all these, he had taken the Rajatarangini Prashasti, which was took place in the medieval period. So it was also a very important, the writing took place in the medieval period. So Prashastis are the prizes towards the king. So these Prashastis also tell us how the rulers wanted to depict themselves as they are the great warriors. Okay, so after that, after when the satisfied, when the rulers had satisfied, they used it to grant lands to the composers or who are the people had written these records. So for that maximum prominently the Brahmanas who used to help in the administration to the king, they used to compose these prashastis. Okay, so this is about prashastis. So children, let us start the next concept, warfare for the wealth. So under this concept, warfare for wealth, only the rulers in the medieval period, what was the intention of them? Always their specific characteristic is they were not restricted to the particular region which they are ruling on. They always wanted to invade on the other kingdoms. They wanted to plunder the wealth in the form of gold coins or ornaments or in the form of money. They wanted to always plunder the property of other kingdoms. So always they targeted temples. Temples are the resembles. The temples are the remarkable indications how wealthy the country or the kingdom was. So always the kings also wanted to plunder or wanted to invade on the temples of other kingdoms. So in this way, let us come to know about the nature of the kings. The nature of the kings always wanted to invade on other kingdoms for the wealth. And let us take one example here. In the medieval period, in the Ganga Valley, one very important and specific city was existed. That city name is Kanos. Kanos was the city located in the Ganga Valley. So these Kanos, what were the Kanos? There were three dynasties competitive with each other to control over the city of Kanos. What are the three dynasties? Gurjara Pratiharas, Gurjara Pratiharas. Second one is Palas. Third one is Rashtrakutas. Okay, so Gurjara Pratiharas, Palas and Rashtrakutas, these are the three dynasties always competitive with each other. They conflict with each other to control over the city of Kanos, which was located in Ganga Valley. As this conflict was carried for the long period, the historians termed this struggle as tripartite struggle. What is this struggle called? Tripartite struggle. That means three dynasties competitive to invade on these Kanos or to control over the city of Kanos. So in the same way, as I said, always the rulers wanted to invade on the temples of other kingdoms. One of the examples who was the king invaded maximum times on our subcontinent belonged to Central Asia. That person is Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni. He was belonged to Central Asia and he ruled over this Iran and the western part of our subcontinent and even Central Asia. Some of the kingdoms were also, some of the part of the Central Asia was also under the control of this Sultan of Muhammad Ghazni. Okay, this Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni belonged to the time period 997 to 1030. To this time period, this Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni ruled. So after this, so always Ghazni, almost every year he had invaded on our country. The specific target of Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni is Somnath temple, which was existed in Gujarat. Somnath was very richest temple in those days in the medieval period. In the form of money, in the form of golden ornaments or in the form of treasury, all this was carried away to the Central Asia by Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni. He targeted and he invaded on the temple and he plundered maximum wealth of this Somnath temple from Gujarat and carried away to the Central Asia, and he had constructed a splendid and fantastic city, capital city of Ghazni. So in this way, this was one of the examples in what way in the medieval period always the rulers wanted to invade on other kingdoms for wealth. And in the same way, here one specific feature of Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni is he not only wanted to plunder the property, he also wanted to know about the nature of the people which is the country was won by him. So he had appointed one Arab scholar called Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni is one important scholar who was appointed by Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni and to write about the people of our subcontinent. Then he has written the one written record, that is Kitab al-Hind. This written work, when he was writing this work, he had taken and consulted number of Sanskrit scholars to write this Kitab al-Hind because he is belong to Arab. So he wanted to write each and every concept about our people. He had taken the help of Sanskrit scholars. With that, he had completed this Kitab al-Hind and given to the Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni. And very important, the other people who are belong to our country, in the north part of our India, Delhi and Ajmer were ruled by Chahmanas. Chahmanas, after that, these Chahmanas later on, they were called Chauhans. So in the Chauhans also very prominent rulers they were. They also wanted to expand their kingdom towards east side and even west part of our India even. So they always opposed by western, here Chalukyas were there, western side, and in the Gahadwalas are there on the eastern side. So they were opposed by Gahadwalas from the east and here Chalukyas from the west. But anyway, at the time of Prithviraj III, this Chauhan's dynasty was focused a lot. Okay, so Prithviraj III was a prominent ruler under Chauhans. What was done by Prithviraj? He had defeated the Arab ruler Sultan Muhammad of Ghori. Sultan Muhammad of Ghori. He was also belonged to Central Asia. So this Arab ruler was defeated by Prithviraj III. Prithviraj III was belonged to 1168 to 1192. Okay, so in the year 1191, this Sultan Muhammad of Ghori was defeated in the hands of Prithviraj III. Okay, but again in the next year itself, this Sultan Muhammad of Ghori, very stubborn he is. He doesn't leave anything immediately. So in the next year only, the Sultan Muhammad of Ghori again invaded on this Delhi and Ajmer. Then so this Chahman ruler, who is Prithviraj III, was defeated in the year 1192. In the next year only, he lost his kingdom to the Sultan Muhammad of Ghori. With this, Prithviraj III ruling was completed over Delhi and Ajmer. Okay, so with this, the Chauhans' importance and their focus was also deteriorated. So in this way, the nature of the kings under the warfare of for wealth, in what way the different kings they had invaded on the other kingdoms, for what purpose they had invaded on the other kingdoms is some of the examples were given to you. So specifically you must know that in the medieval period the rulers obviously they invaded on the other kingdoms not only for ruling, just to acquire the wealth in the form of coins, gold coins, or in the form of ornaments, or in the form of treasury. So anyway, they used to target the temples. Temples were targeted by number because temples are remarkable and they are the indicators for the wealth of the kingdom. So in this way, Somanath temple was also plundered and that wealth was carried to the Central Asia by Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni and constructed a splendid capital city in the Ghazni in Central Asia. So in this way, Gurjara, Pratiharas and Palas and Rashtrakutas, these three dynasties quarreled with each other to get control over the city of Kannauj. So this struggle was carried for the long period, so that this struggle is called tripartite struggle. Okay, so these are the concepts under this warfare for wealth. Okay, children. Now, concept is Cholas, about the Cholas dynasty. How did Cholas rise to power? Okay, how did Cholas come to power? First of all, I would like to tell you one minor chief family known as Muttarayar. Very minor chief family. It is ruling over Kaveri Delta. Okay, children. Kaveri Delta was ruled by Muttarayar, a very simple or minor chief family ruling on over this Kaveri Delta. So this Muttarayar is actually, they are the Samantas of Pallavas of Kanchipuram. They are the Samantas. This Muttarayar are the Samantas of Pallavas who are ruling Kanchipuram. So here one ancient chief family of Cholas belonged to Vijayalaya. This Vijayalaya is the person belonged to another ancient chief family. Okay, so this he had invaded on Kaveri Delta Muttarayar, and he had invaded and he captured this Kaveri Delta and he had constructed their town of Tanjavur. Town of Tanjavur and one temple for goddess. That goddess Nishumba Sudini. So, one temple for Nishumba Sudini and the town of Tanjavur were constructed by Vijayalaya in Kaveri Delta. So, at the time, who was the establisher of Cholas dynasty? Vijayalaya. So, at the time of Vijayalaya, who is belong to Cholas, one chief family, they are also belong to the chief family only. So, but these chieftains had these were attacked or captured Kaveri Delta, and in that reason he had constructed town of Tanjavur and Nishumba Sudini, which are very famous even at present. So after this Vijayalaya, the success of Vijayalaya, successors who are after the rule of Vijayalaya, the rulers who are belong to this same Cholas dynasty were also extended the kingdom. They also enlarged their kingdom towards, for example, here Pandyas, which are in southern part, and Pallavas, which are in north part, they also had become the part of their kingdom. So, by this, what can we say? The successors of Vijayalaya also had extended their kingdom. Again, in the year 985, the ruling period of Rajaraja I. He is very important and prominent person in Cholas dynasty. Rajaraja I. Rajaraja I also, he also extended his kingdom and he also reorganized the administrative system also in the country or in his kingdom. So he was also famous in the Cholas dynasty. After this Rajaraja I, Rajendra I, who is the son of Rajaraja I, Rajendra I also had followed the same policies of his father, and he also extended his kingdom by all the ways. For example, here he also invaded or raided on Ganga Valley and southeastern part of some South Asian countries, and even on Sri Lanka. And he also expanded the Navy expeditions also. He also expanded Navy routes also, and he for these expeditions he had tried a lot and he had expanded a lot the sea routes. So that was also a very great achievement of Rajendra I. So in this way, under this Cholas dynasty, actually this Cholas dynasty is a chieftain family. They are not directly the rulers. They are also the Samantas of other kings. So they are the Samantas of these Pallavas. So after that, Muttayarur, one chiefly dynasty, which was who are ruling this Kaveri Delta, was captured by Vijayalaya. So Vijayalaya is the establisher of Cholas dynasty over Kaveri Delta. So in that reason, he had constructed town of Tanjavur and Nishumba Sudini. And after that, very focusing, the time period belongs to this 985. In this period, Rajaraja I was very famous and focused person in this Cholas dynasty. Under this Rajaraja I also, this kingdom was extended by all the directions, by all the ways. And after that, his son Rajendra I also had followed the same policies of his father, and he also extended his kingdom. Okay, so after this Vijayalaya, after that the successors of the Vijayalaya also had extended, and they had also emerged and merged this Pallavas kingdom and Pandya's kingdom into this Cholas dynasty. So this is about this Cholas. Next concept is splendid temples and bronze sculptures, which was very famous at the time of Cholas dynasty. Here the temples which were constructed in Gangaikonda Cholapuram and Tanjavur, very famous temples under this Cholas dynasty. They were the sculpture, they are very good architecture, and famous sculptures were constructed in the temples of Gangaikonda Cholapuram and Tanjavur. And these temples which were constructed in these cities were constructed by Rajaraja I and Rajendra. 985 Rajaraja I who came to ruling. So Rajaraja I, the temples which were constructed in Gangaikonda Cholapuram and Tanjavur, which were very famous, they were constructed at the time of Rajaraja I and Rajendra. So for the construction of the temples or for the establishment of the very marvelous temples, the lands were donated by number of the kings and even the number of wealthy people. The rulers and the wealthy people maximum donated the lands for the construction of the temples. And after that, when this construction of temple took place, these centers, these temples were stood as the centers of craft production. These temples stood as the centers of craft production. Okay, and in the same way, in addition to that, number of the people who are serving for the temple, they had to construct their houses. They used to reside beside the temples itself. So around the temple, number of the people used to they used to live there. So who are the people? Like you may take people who sweep the temple and who garland makers to the deities, and the people who musicians and dancers and even priests and a number of other professional people who are doing some different activities for the purpose of temple. They use it to reside beside this Cholas temples only. Okay, so we can say that these temples under this Cholas dynasty, which were constructed by Cholas, they were not only the places of worship, they are the hub of social and economical and political life, we can say. Okay, and in the same way, very great bronze images, one of the very famous and distinctive features, because the images which were made by the bronze metal at the time of Cholas dynasty were very famous worldwide. They were one of the finest images, remarkable images in the entire world. So this is about a very splendid the temples which were constructed in Gangaikonda Cholapuram and Tanjavur, they were remarkable constructions for the Cholas administration. And after that, this construction, when these lands were donated by the number of wealthy people and the rulers, these temples were surrounded, and around the temple number of people were used to reside. All types of activities related to the number of people residing beside or around these temples. And in addition to that, craft production, this is also has stood as the center of craft production. In the same way, bronze metal, the images which were made by the bronze metal, they were also very famous. At the time of Chola's administration, these bronze images were made for the deities in the temples. And not only of the deities, some of the times some devotees images were also made by these bronze metals. Okay, so this is about the splendid temples and bronze images of the Cholas dynasty. Right? Now, next concept is agriculture and irrigation under Cholas dynasty. What are the agricultural extensions were taken place? Methods were extended. In what way they were extended, and in what way irrigation facilities were also took place under this Cholas dynasty would be explained in now. Now first, once we take the division of channels, what are these channels? The Kaveri river, when it is merges into, this is Bay of Bengal. When Kaveri river, before it merged into the Bay of Bengal, it divides into number of channels. So when it is dividing into number of channels, when water overflows from this channel, they will provide, the silt and fertility could be carried on to the banks of the rivers. So because of that, that lands would become very fertile, which is possible to create or to produce large amount of agriculture and large amount of cultivation of the rice. So in this way, the division of channels also helped a lot for the extension of this cultivation, okay, under this agricultural system. So what are the things were done to extend this agricultural lands? Here deforestation took place, maximum forests were cleared up to extend the agricultural land, and in some areas the lands which are in up and low, which are in not level, they were all leveled, and those lands were also used for the agriculture. So in this way, the lands which were existed earlier were extended to the higher level at the time of Cholas dynasty, at the time of Cholas ruling this Tamil Nadu or Kaveri Delta. And in the same way, embankments were also taken. Whenever the floods took place, this had to be improved, this had to be implemented. So embankments were also implemented to control the flood of the water, okay, to control the floods. And in the same way, construction of canals took place. Number of canals were constructed to provide water or to carry on the water from the rivers to the open fields or agricultural fields. And many irrigational facilities and methods were also taken place. Not only the canals, digging of wells. In some areas where the water facilities, other facilities were not there, here wells were dug. And in the same way, in other areas, huge tanks were also constructed to restore this rainwater. So in this way, number of other irrigation facilities were also implemented. The thing is very important, and most focused thing is not only the rulers but also the people living in the villages also had concentrated on number of the activities. What are the activities? For example, here irrigation works. The people who are living in the villages also had concentrated and showed their interest to enlarge these agricultural lands and to extend these irrigational works. And here they also participated in planning and maintaining, and they also shared their views in dividing the water, sharing of the water of this Kaveri river. In all these, people also had concentrated with this. In the 5th and 6th century in Tamil Nadu, the Kaveri Delta was left for the great agricultural production. It was left for maximum production was took place in the Kaveri Delta river in 5th and 6th century. So in this way, under this Cholas dynasty, in what way the agricultural extension was took place? Okay, lands in what way they have been extended, in what way irrigation facilities were also took place, in what way they had laid a path for extension of the cultivation of the rice or extension of agricultural lands also made possible. So in this way, what were the achievements took place under this Chola system made possibility because of new developments of the agriculture in this Cholas dynasty. Okay children, this is about this agriculture and irrigation under Cholas dynasty. See children, the next concept is administrative system under Cholas dynasty. So in what way administration was conducted? Administrative policies were took place under the Cholas. First, this land of the Cholas dynasty was deviated under different categories. First one, if you take Urs are the places or the villages where the number of peasants had settled. So the settlement of the peasants, where in which areas, in which regions it was taken place, that entire unit is called Ur. So these Urs are developed a lot by extension of agricultural system and even irrigation facilities. So the number of Urs when they joined together and the group of Urs made a single unit which is called Nadu. So Nadu is nothing but the group of such villages which are the peasant settlements in the form of such a large number of Urs made a single unit called Nadu. So these Nadus were controlled by one peasant's Vellala caste. The Cholas administration has given a priority to the Vellas caste. It is actually, this is also rich peasants clan it is. This is belong to rich peasants. So this caste is belongs to rich peasants. So to the Vellas caste, this administration over the Nadus was endorsed. So this here, Muvenda Velan. Velan is nothing but peasant. So some of the titles were also given to the peasants by Cholas administration. Muvenda Velan and Orayur. It nothing but it means is a person, a peasant who is serving three kings. So is an extraordinary peasant. So in this way, this Cholas administration had given the number of titles also for the extensive peasants or rich peasants in different way. And in the same way, in the under this Cholas administration, the lands were granted to the Brahmanas. Okay, so over the many activities done by them. So the lands which were granted for the Brahmanas were called Brahmadeya. So these Brahmadeyas where the granted lands were maximum existed in the beside the Kaveri river and in South India. So that because of these Brahmadeyas were allotted to the number of Brahmins under this Cholas administration, people, maximum Brahmanas were settled in beside this Kaveri river and in South India. So these Brahmadeyas were also controlled by large landholders of Brahmanas. Okay, the Brahmanas the clan belonged to the Brahmanas only, but the large associations of large landowners used to control over this Brahmadeya. Okay, so what were the suggestions or what were the decisions were taken by these associations of Brahmanas landholders were clearly written and they were recorded on inscriptions or on the rock materials of the temples. So they were the sources to know about these Cholas. Now today it is available for us so that we are coming to know more about these Cholas. So here Nagarams are another association is there, another place is there. So these lands, Nagarams are the places which were given to the associations of traders. Maximum these traders administration took place over the towns. Okay, so in this way there are Urs, Nadus, Brahmadeyas and Nagarams. So here maximum these people, the traders used to control over these towns. Okay, their administration took over on the towns. So here one Chingalpet one in Tamil Nadu, Chingalpet district, one place is there, Uttamarayur. In this Uttamarayur, some inscriptions were found. So according to this, we are coming to know how this Sabha was conducted at the time of Chola's administration, how this Sabha was organized. The system was clearly, detailed information was given. According this assembly or the association where they had taken different committees. The committee, one committee which is taking care of gardens, another committee taking care of temple, another committee taking care of irrigation facilities. Like that, the different committees were formed. Okay, so in the administration, in the Sabha, every Sabha had. Then for each committee, the members who had to be allotted, all eligible members' names should be written. They had to be written on the tickets of palm leaves. So all these tickets were put into earthenware pot. So one small boy was asked to take out or pick up these names. Unknowingly, the names which were coming out, the names which were taken by the small boy were formed like one committee, and the committees were formed under this Sabha. This was clearly given in the inscriptions which were available in Tamil Nadu and Chingalpet district. Okay, so this is about this administrative system under this Cholas dynasty. Okay, this is all about this about the Cholas. How did they raise to the power? In what way they had extended the agricultural system? In what way they had taken the administrative system also? So under Cholas central administration, all these people, for example, here Muvenduvelam are there, na Vellala caste were there, na. So this Vellala caste under this central administration of Cholas, they had taken that control over these nadus. So in this way, decentralization of the power was also existed at the time of Cholas dynasty or Cholas administration system also. Okay, this is about this Cholas administration and even about Cholas dynasty. Okay, children.